Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu der STANLEY Parable Ultra Deluxe. Okay, wir sehen hier schon ein Bildschirm. Bildschirm. Okay, keine Ahnung, was auf uns zukommt. Spielen wir einfach mal das Spiel. Ich hab gehört, es soll richtig geil sein. Es soll aber auch nur 2 Stunden gehen oder so. Mal was zwischendurch. Okay, fangen wir einfach an zu zocken. Viel Spaß und los geht's.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Achso, ich kann ja schon spielen. Okay. Ich muss auch erstmal zurechtkommen mit dieser Tastatur. Ich kann halt nicht spielen mit Tastatur und Maus. Ich hab mich so gewöhnt dran, ein Gamepad zu haben. Okay, WASD, ne? Wahrscheinlich Game und Maus, okay. Finden wir raus, was man noch braucht an Knöpfe. Ich habe jetzt gerade auf Leertaste gedrückt, da passiert nichts. Okay, der erzählt jetzt einfach, was abgeht und ich laufe rum und dann erzählt er wahrscheinlich, was ich jetzt mache, oder was? Ich drücke auf die Maustaste, da kommen so, glaube ich, Geräusche. Tastaturgeräusche. 428, das ist mein Nachbar. Okay. Keine Ahnung, was hier abgeht. So komisch, so auf witzige Mystery-Musik. Da lässt sich ja gar nichts öffnen hier. Ich kann hier gar nichts öffnen, ne? Hallo? Hallo?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Keine Ahnung.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Soll ich jetzt machen, was er zu mir sagt? Der Erzähler, der sagt mir einfach, was ich machen soll, oder was?
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Hier ist niemand, hallo. Soll jetzt wirklich jemand hier im Meetingraum sein, im Konferenzraum, oder was? Schönes Bild, ja. Sehr idyllisch. Hallo, ist so hell draußen, ich kann gar nicht mal raussehen hier. Das Blatt kann ich auch nicht aufheben. Hallo, ist hier jemand? Sag bloß, heute ist Brückentag, am Ende bin ich als einziger zur Arbeit gekommen, ich Idiot, oder was? Ah Mann, ich hätte es besser drauf achten können. Jetzt komme ich zur Arbeit, alarmfrei. Oder ist Betriebsausflug. Vielleicht ist es geschlossen worden. Wegen Insolvenz. Und ich komme als einziger noch zur Arbeit. Ich hasse Montage. Komme ich da rein? 417. Also so viele Büros hier, ist unfassbar. Sag bloß, es gibt 400 Büros. Oh, das ist der 4. Stock und 15. Tür. 4B3, guck mal.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Warte mal ganz kurz. Er will jetzt, dass ich da durchgehe, gell? Warte, wir gehen andersrum. Wir gehen mal die rechte. Ich glaube, jeder macht es jetzt so. Jeder sagt, nein, ich gehe nicht, ich gehe rechts.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Okay, ja. Bewundern wir die Lounge. Ich kann die Tür noch gar nicht öffnen. Alle zu. Ist voller Walking Simulator.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Der Erzähler ist genervt davon, dass Stanley hier sich nicht dran hält, was er hier dem aufsetzt.
Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings.
Ja, schöne Bilder.
Really worth it.
Ja, genau. Danke für die Erwähnung mit den Bildern. Die schaue ich mir nochmal an. Wow, so schön. Mich interessiert die...
At this point, Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy and reflected poorly on his overall personality.
Ich habe
It's
keine...
possible that this is why everyone left.
Ich habe mir eben auch einen Kaffee gemacht, ne? Ich trinke auch gerade.
Stanley sat around waiting for more dialogue. But when a long time had passed and there was no more, but at last he'd had enough of the amazing room and took the first open door on his left to get back to business.
Ja, okay, dann gehen wir da durch.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door and got back on track.
Nein, ich will hier den Fahrstuhl benutzen. Wohin komme ich jetzt?
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Warte mal, der will mich doch verarschen, oder? Der denkt, da weiß, dass ich rechts gehen will. Ja, aber da öffnet sich sonst nichts. Okay, dann ist halt nur links offen.
Oh, no. No, it's to the right, my mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
Ja, kein Problem. Schau mal nach. Erzähler.
Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
Ah, okay. Danke. Der Erzähler hat eine gute Verbindung zu den Entwicklern. Sagen wir dann ganz genau, wie ich spielen soll. Ist das die Stanley Parabel? Wow.
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning.
Nein.
And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
Gefeuert. Steht da. Krass, es war wie bei Matrix 2 Reloaded. Beim Architekten. Der konnte alles sehen. Okay, fangen wir neu an.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okay, gehen wir nochmal hier lang.
When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors?
No.
Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story.
Ja.
It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Wo lang soll ich jetzt gehen? Geh einfach mal nach rechts. Let's find the story. Finden wir einfach mal die Geschichte. Gehen wir mal hier lang. Ich habe keine Ahnung. Wo bin ich jetzt hier gelandet? Auch ein schönes Bild. Da ist einfach nichts. War das überhaupt ein
I'll
Bild?
say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again?
Ja, mach mal.
I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Ja, start halt neu. Es ist so meta, das Spiel. Aber mal schauen, was auf uns zukommt.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Ja, ja.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
War das vorhin auch schon offen hier? Lag das hier schon auf dem Boden?
Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Ja, okay. Führe mich, Erzähler. Sag mir, wo ich hingehen soll.
Aha! I knew we'd miss something.
Ja?
The story. Here it comes. No, wait. Never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
Willst du mich hier gerade verarschen oder was? Wie lange soll ich jetzt rumlaufen? Hä? Wo bin ich jetzt auf einmal gelandet? Was geht hier ab?
Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win!
Yoo-hoo!
Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job.
Danke.
Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at
Doch,
all.
doch, ist okay.
We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart.
Schon wieder. Mann.
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line.
Trademark.
Just follow the line. How simple is that?
Sogar Linie ist Trademark. Juhu. Schauen wir mal, ob es jetzt klappt. Keine Ahnung, wohin das uns alles führt hier, dieses Metaspiel.
You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
Ja.
cut the music,
Hey.
go back and look at that fern.
Ich muss ja auch so, ich laufe ja extra so zickzackmäßig, genauso wie das sagt.
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
Hey! Ich lande immer in diesem Kontrollraum da.
You know what, Stanley?
Hey.
I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Was schlägst du denn vor? Hier lang? Okay. Mach's mal spannend.
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it. Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
Wer hat denn hier die Linien so komisch gezogen? War wohl jemand irgendwie auf LSD oder was? Manchmal sind die Linien auch auf Autobahnen komisch gezogen, diese gelben Linien da wegen der Baustellen, wegen den Baustellen und so weiter. Ich muss gerade daran denken.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere at the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
Hier lang? Oh, mir ist schon schwindelig geworden. Das Verwirrungsende.
Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really... No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay. I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
Hey! Das Krasse ist am Ende schon, dass Stanley stirbt.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Kann ich jetzt irgendwelche Türen öffnen? Nee, ich kann gar nichts machen.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Ich mach alles auf, mir egal. Und er erzählt es, er sagt es sogar noch.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ja, okay. Ich tu, was du sagst.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Wir hatten hier die nächste Seite geklickt.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Soll ich hochgehen zum Chef?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Wow. Ziemlich bossige Tapete hier. Badezimmer vom Chef. I've got a feeling. Ja, aber das Waschbecken könnte doch mal ein bisschen sauber gemacht werden mit Essigreiniger oder so. Der Chef muss mal hier eine Putzkraft hier anheuern. Oder selbst sauber machen wenigstens. Chef, hallo? Chef, Chefin? Kung Fu Panda? Der Chef hat sogar so einen eigenen Fahrstuhl. Hey, ich hab hier ein Ding. Ein Fadenkreuz nach 100 Jahren. Ja, geh mal hoch. Juhu, Fahrschulmusik. Ich liebe es. Habe ich gerade Stanley gehört? Hey, geht's nicht höher? Was ist das für ein Bild? Der Chef, der Krawattenträger, ihm gehört die Welt oder was? Oh.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
Kamera.
Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
2845, aber krass, guck mal, wie hoch die Wände sind.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ah, hier. Sieht sogar aus wie so eine Brandschutztür hier. Was ist für ein Surren? Oh lala, wo sind wir jetzt gelandet? Geheimgang vom Chef? Was auch immer das bedeutet.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Okay, jetzt schauen wir mal, was geht ab hier.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Gedankenkontrolle.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Ja klar. Das finden wir alles raus hier, damit das ganze Spiel mal hier endlich mal einen Sinn ergibt.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Wo Freiheit nichts bedeutet. Alle werden überwacht, ein paar werden gefeuert. Geh mal hier hin. Oder war ich da schon?
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Soll weiterlaufen, kein Problem. Soll weiter die Gedankenkontrolle. Ich habe damit kein Problem. Ja. Ich drücke jetzt hier über. Ah, hier. 1. Ja, okay. Wie... Was machen wir jetzt? System power.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Nee, mach an.
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you?
Ja.
After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control?
Ja. Von...
Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave.
Nein.
If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes.
Was?
Now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start.
Lass
What's
abhauen.
that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not?
Danke.
These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right
Ja.
now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle.
Ah!
30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever up.
Ah! Ist es vorbei? Was ist passiert? Hallo? Hallo? Erzähler. Erzähl was. Okay, wir sind wieder am Anfang des Spiels. Der hat auch selbst gesagt, ja, du willst dieses Videospiel besiegen. Das ist total
All
meta.
of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Und täglich grüßt das Murmeltier. Ja, schauen wir mal.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ich freue mich schon auf den Twist von dem Spiel.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it? Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy.
Sorry.
So he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Hey! Das ist gut erzählt, ja? Ich hab noch den Code im Kopf gehabt, schnell hier durchgehen, weitergehen. Der Erzähler sagt, ey, was ist für Musik jetzt?
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Okay. Ich muss kurz niesen. Ja, kennst du das? Wenn man niesen muss und irgendwie kommt nichts und irgendwie niest man doch nicht. Runter? Okay, runter. Dann gehen wir runter. Okay. Was haben wir jetzt hier? Hey, langsam. Hier müsste mal ein Elektriker kommen.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Flucht? Lass abhauen.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Was? Soll ich umdrehen? Ne, scheiß drauf, komm, wir ziehen durch. Vielleicht will er mich nur... Vielleicht will er mir nur Angst einjagen.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Soll ich's tun? Komm, wir ziehen durch. Freiheit! Freiheit!
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Dann sterben wir für die Freiheit. Ah! Ah! Hey, wo bin ich? Ich lebe!
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Leb wohl, ich kann mich nicht bewegen. Und weg.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Einfach mal ein neuer Erzähler. Illy? Stanley? Die Stanley Parabel.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Mir gefällt die Erzählerin. Okay, ein neuer Weg. Was wollte der Erzähler damit erreichen? Sagte die Erzählerin. Das kann ich auch erzählen, was die Erzählerin über den Erzähler erzählt.
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Ja. Stanleys Computer. Büro Grundriss. Hier sind auf jeden Fall Landschaftsgemälde. Büro Grundriss. Sogar mit hier. Sogar mit Erläuterung. Dieser Plan zeigt das Büro vom Spielanfang. Der Weg von Stanleys Büro zu den beiden Türen war der erste Teil des Spiels, der gebaut wurde. Im Laufe der Entwicklung wurden Abschnitte hinzugefügt und verändert, aber der Kerngrundriss ist fast identisch zum ersten Durchlauf. Gang. Es war wichtig, das Spieltempo in diesem ersten Abschnitt richtig einzustellen. Dieser Korridor wurde verschoben und verändert, um sicherzustellen, dass der Spieler die beiden Türen in einer guten Zeit erreicht. Aha, okay. Die zwei Türen. Die zwei offenen Türen waren der erste konkrete Teil des STANLEY Parable Designs. Als dieser Raum erstellt worden war, entwickelte sich der Rest des Spiels als eine Erweiterung davon, eine Erkundung des Widerspruchs, den dieser Raum darstellte. Ah, okay, sehr, sehr interessant. So, was haben wir hier? Das Büro. 001, 002, 003. Aha, sehr interessant. Es ist wie in einer Kunstausstellung. Ah, Knopfgeräusche. Eine Auswahl an Geräuschen, die im gesamten Spiel beim Drücken von Knöpfen verwendet werden. Jedes Geräusch ist eine Mischung aus einem Tastaturanschlag und einem künstlichen Ton. Du, 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 du. Du. Du, 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 du. Du. Brrri. Was haben wir hier? Aktenschränke. Sehr, sehr schön. Bürocomputer, aha. Was haben wir? Die Credits. Modellentwurf, Originalgrafik, Musik, geschrieben und entworfen von Davy Braden und William Pugh. Zusätzliche Entwicklung, basierend auf der Arbeit von 2013er Team von The Stanley Parable. Was kommt jetzt auf uns zu? Komm mal hier. Was ist hier noch? Chefbüro. Screenshots von der Entwicklung des Chefbüros. Ah, schön. Bürouhr. Wow. Das macht sogar Geräusche. Je näher man da hinkommt. Gehen wir mal hoch. Freiheitsende. Das war die allererste Verkörperung des Freiheitsendes in der Alpha-Version des Spiels. Oh. Was war das denn? Hallo? Countdown Schreibtisch. Eine Zeit lang konnte der Aufzug im Monitorraum nach oben oder unten fahren. Mit Freiheit oben und Countdown unten. Das haben wir aufgegeben, weil die Spieler es zu schwierig fanden, sich zu merken, was oben und was unten war. Und haben stattdessen die beiden Endungen zusammengelegt. Freiheitsende. Das ist das Freiheitsende, wie es in der Beta-Version vorkam. Ah, wow, schön. Schön ländlich. Überwachungsraumaufzug. Eine Zeit lang konnte der Aufzug im Monitorraum nach oben oder unten fahren. Das haben wir eben schon gelesen, ne? Ah, was ist das? Der Countdown-Raum. Eine erste Version des Countdown-Raums. Wow. Wundervoll. Und was haben wir hier? Spieldesignmodell. Das ist das Level, das William, der Leveldesigner, Davy, dem Autor, als eine Art Vorspielstück geschickt hat. Die Stärke des Levels führte dazu, dass William für das Design des gesamten Spiels eingestellt wurde. Obwohl sich viel an der Umgebung geändert hat, ist der Grundriss dieses Modells immer noch im Spiel enthalten. Wow! Ah, okay, wir sind hier in meinem Büro. Da ist ein Fenster drüber. Ich kann gar nicht rein. Stanleys Büro. Von links nach rechts. Die Entwicklung von Stanleys Büro im Lauf der Zeit. Das erste wurde im November 2011 erstellt. Das zweite im März 2013 und das dritte im Februar 2013. Wow. Was für eine Entwicklung. Krass. Woo! Wundervoll. Was haben wir hier? Die Lounge. Die erste Version der Lounge. Krass. Die haben sich voll viel Mühe gegeben mit der Entwicklung. Das Büro. Was ist ein Bleistiftspitzer und ein Telefon? Was haben wir hier? Hey, der Timer ist abgelaufen. Der Wohnungstimer. In einer früheren Version der Entscheidung, die zum Apartmentende geführt hat, hat ein Timer einen 15 Sekunden Zeit gegeben, um ans Telefon zu gehen. Wenn man nicht ans Telefon gegangen ist, hat das zu einem anderen Ende geführt. Was für ein Ende? Zu was für ein Spiel? Ich laufe hier nur rum. Der Lastenaufzug. Der Lastenaufzug sollte immer die Wahl bieten, auf dem Weg zu bleiben oder auf einen anderen Weg zu springen. Nach dieser ersten Version entschieden wir jedoch, dass wir auch die Option wollten, dass der Spieler nicht tot stürzt. Was? Meetingraum. Hey, der Beamer. Wartungsraum Grundriss. Es war wichtig, den Lauf der Gänge nach den ersten beiden Türen richtig hinzubekommen, da die Spieler wiederholt durch sie gehen würden. Wir haben eine Reihe von Entwürfen diskutiert, aber letztendlich hat sich die einfachste Variante durchgesetzt. Was haben wir hier? Sending-Modell. Das Sending durchlief viele Anpassungen. Dieser Raum zeigte die 4. Version des Endes und wir dachten, es sei vollständig beschlossen, aber kurz vor der Veröffentlichung es zu verwerfen oder zu ändern. Sending. Dieser Screenshot zeigte die erste Version des Endes, das als Sending bekannt ist und als letztendlich ausgeschnitten und zu einem anderen Teil des Spiels zusammengefügt wurde. Was haben wir hier? Sending-Hebel. Diese Hebel waren ursprünglich ein Teil von Sending. Der Spieler sollte an einem Hebel ziehen und der Erzähler sollte beschreiben, an welche Farbe er gezogen hatte. Woo! Toll. Geht's hier irgendwie auch mal weiter? Trailer. Wir haben im Laufe der Spielentwicklung 4 große Teaser-Trailer produziert, die alle etwas über den Geist des Spiels vermitteln sollten. Dies ist der erste, veröffentlicht im Mai 2012. Er zeigt eine Reihe von kaputten Räumen und die Stimme des Erzählers, der den Zuschauer mitteilt, dass er eine neue Version von STANLEY Parable repariert. Wo bin ich jetzt hier gelandet? Was spiele ich hier gerade? Was ist das hier für ein Spiel, Mann? Game is now paused. Pause-Menü. Ja, alles klar. Geht's noch mal weiter oder ist es das Spiel jetzt? Was ist das hier? Alles klar, ich hab gelacht und jetzt? Also innerlich. Das Büro. So ein Metaspiel. Wartungsraum, die erste Version des Wartungsraums. Schlachtfeld. Schon früh in der Entwicklung haben wir ein Ende entworfen, bei dem Stanley auf einem Schlachtfeld landet und gegen Aliens kämpft. Das Actionspiel sollte empfindungsfähig werden und Krieg gegen den Erzähler führen. Kurz nachdem wir mit der Entwicklung begonnen hatten, merkten wir, dass es viel zu witzig und zu kurz gedacht war für den Charakter des Spiels. Außerdem wurde es von manchen Leuten so interpretiert, dass das Spiel sich über Leute lustig macht, die Ego-Shooter mögen, was nicht unsere Absicht war. Okay. Ja, aber besser als alles, was ich jetzt gerade hier sehe, ehrlich gesagt. Das ist mir zu Meta. Ich möchte hier ein Spiel spielen und nicht hier rumlaufen und die machen sich halt komplett lustig gerade über alles. Das ist Meta von Meta. Am Ende des Tages geht es darum, dass ich hier in einem Walking Simulator bin über ein Spiel, das eigentlich gar kein Spiel ist und die erzählen darüber, dass es eigentlich gar kein Spiel ist und wollen es jetzt so witzig rüberbringen oder was? Das Spiel wurde doch voll gefeiert, Mann. Von allen Seiten. Aber bis jetzt ist es nicht meins, aber vielleicht gibt es einen geilen Twist oder so.
Now look closely, Stanley. See how it's impossible for the player to do anything in this room? Perfect example of poor level design, textbook mistake. It's the kind of thing you'd pick up on intuitively if you had even the most fundamental understanding of good and bad game design. But of course, you being you, you'll probably spend the next hour trying to solve it. Here, I'm just gonna make this easy on you.
Die Outtakes. Untergrund, die erste Version des Untergrundteils des Spiels. Geht's irgendwie weiter jetzt? Kann ich die Tür öffnen irgendwie? Ich weiß nicht, wie lange spiele ich das Spiel eigentlich. Warte mal ganz kurz. Also bei mir steht, dass die Aufnahme seit 50 Minuten ungefähr läuft, ne? Das Spiel soll 2 Stunden dauern. Was passiert denn jetzt noch? Hier war ich schon, ne? Das ist aber geil gewesen. Jetzt. Freiheitsende. Ah, hier geht's vielleicht weiter.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Ja, komm.
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another?
Über wen redet sie?
Perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game.
Nein, mach
As
ich
long as
nicht.
you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
Nee, dann sterbe ich halt. Und jetzt? Vorbei? Oh, jetzt bin ich wieder hier gelandet.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Vielleicht mache ich auch einen Fehler, dass ich mal links gehe und nicht rechts.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Okay, I think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, the keypad. Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new passageway. Quelle surprise.
Danke, gell? Da hat kapiert, dass es schnell gehen kann. Richtig geil eben gewesen. Ja, bla bla bla, dies, das. Da weiß ich schon Bescheid. 2845 eingeben. Überspringen wir einfach den Teil durch. Wieder die Funken hier.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Was passiert jetzt, ist die Frage, ne? Das waren ja die Kameras. Gibt es noch einen anderen Knöpfe hier?
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Ja.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible?
Ich akzeptier's.
Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Komm, mach halt aus. Und jetzt?
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Komm, öffne.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Ich bin glücklich. Ist es vorbei? Oder gibt es noch einen Neustart jetzt? So, es geht weiter.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Es ist also nicht vorbei.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Genau das hat er getan. Stanley hat keinen eigenen Willen.
Yet there was not a single person here either.
Bla bla
Feeling
bla
a wave
bla.
of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Auf dem Weg. Die machen schon
Here's
alles.
the door, just go.
Danke. Was passiert denn jetzt aber noch?
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
8. Mal oder so.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Ja, das haben wir doch schon ein paar Mal herausgefunden, ne?
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Komm weiter. Ich warte schon auf diesen kompletten Twist von dem Spiel irgendwie.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Passiert jetzt wieder dasselbe oder was? Jetzt bin ich aber gespannt.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Das ist einfach das Gleiche wieder. Ich gehe einfach einen anderen Weg jetzt. Irgendwie muss es ja auch enden. Okay, komm. Anderer Weg.
How wonderful. Stanley was alone. Finally. This is great, he thought to himself. This is what I've wanted all along. I got what I wanted.
Hat er irgendwas anderes erzählt? Als sonst.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Nein.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Danke. Okay, jetzt reißen wir das Spiel einfach aus.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
Nein.
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Nee, mach ich nicht. Ich gehe wieder nach rechts.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. What was it? But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Ah, okay. Später.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Okay, hier komme ich gar nicht weiter, ne?
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life.
Sie?
She's been waiting.
Was? Wer ist denn jetzt auf einmal sie?
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this.
Hallo? Schatz? Bist du's? Ja, mal so, ich bin hier gefangen. In diesem Büro 427.
Oh, Stanley, is that you?
Ja.
Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Hä?
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife? Didn't want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Ah, jetzt kann ich mich endlich bewegen. Ich war eben gesperrt die ganze Zeit. Schatz?
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Über den Tod. Drücke O?
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Drücke I, okay.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Drücke X, okay, Chef. Ich habe keinen eigenen Willen.
But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Drücke V, um Fernsehen. Ja, Fernsehen ist immer gut.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Drücke O, um Zeit mit den Jungs zu verbringen.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Drücke H, bitte drücke H, um Abendessen vorzubereiten.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Oh. Bitte drücke B, um deinen Kindern eine Geschichte zu erzählen.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Bitte drücke H, um deiner Frau zu sagen, dass du sie liebst. Ich drücke einfach mal B. Geht nix, ich muss H drücken.
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Drücke H, um schlafen zu gehen. Ich drück mal T. Passiert nichts. Leertaste? Passiert auch nichts. Okay, drücken wir halt H.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Okay, ich drücke jetzt gar nichts. Wenn er sagt, ich soll nichts drücken, aber ich höre jetzt, er sagt mir, was ich tun soll, dann tue ich es auch. Drücke H, um morgens zur Arbeit zu erscheinen. Ich drücke jetzt gar nichts. Da sagt, ich soll nichts drücken, aber da höre ich ja wieder auf ihn, ne? Da sagt, ich soll nicht auf ihn hören, aber ich höre auf ihn. Ich höre auf ihn, indem ich dann nichts tue, aber er will auch, dass ich nichts tue. Ne, jetzt drücke ich nichts. Mal gucken, was passiert. Ich trinke gemütlich meinen Tee. Mal gucken. Ja. Ich drücke doch nichts, aber da passiert auch nichts. Ich warte noch 10 Sekunden, vielleicht ist ein interner Timer drin. Wenn der Sekundenzeiger auf der 9 ist, drücke ich H, wenn nichts passiert. Ja, okay, passiert nichts.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Ja, drücke V, um nicht zu hinterfragen.
I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Hey, ich hab alles gedrückt. Bin ich jetzt tot? Es lädt. Ach, wieder hier gelandet. Schön an meinem Arbeitsplatz. 427.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Geh mir wieder den rechten Weg. Hey, new content.
Oh, new content? What does that mean? New content.
Neuer Inhalt. Juhu, es gibt neuen Inhalt. Was passiert jetzt?
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Gerne.
As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers.
Bin ich ja.
After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over.
Ein Amüsierpark.
Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
Juhu, Ultra Deluxe.
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
Es passiert einfach nichts. Juhu.
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
Juhu, los geht's. Neuer Inhalt zum Nichts.
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
Juhu, neuer Inhalt. Zeig's mir.
All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
Juhu! Super! Das war toll! Nochmal! Nochmal!
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right? Goodness. Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh, wait. There's more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Okay, was geht ab? Was passiert jetzt? Danke.
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
Ja, komm, mach. Neustart. Was auch immer das jetzt bedeutet. Juhu. Sieht aber ein bisschen anders aus. Ich hasse Montage. Boah, ein schönes Bild vom Büro.
Psst! Stanley! Come over here! In the vent! I want to show you something!
Bin ich schon drin? Okay, was kommt jetzt?
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it
Yeah.
got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone.
Wow.
It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Die Memory Zone.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Voll schön. 2013, Baby. Vor 9 Jahren. Die guten alten Zeiten. Kommt wieder da einfach da hockt. In loving memory. The Stanley Parable. Mein erster $1, den ich verdient habe. Trip down to memory lane. Smile because it happened. Lächel, weil es passiert ist. Wie so ein Museum. Geh raus, spiele nicht für 5 Jahre. Unachievable. Unerreichbar. Es ist nicht möglich, diese Errungenschaft zu bekommen. Diese Trophäe. New video game releasing today. Neues Spiel wird heute veröffentlicht. Hey, da ist Stanley. Ist er tot? Die Los Angeles Times. Stanley Parable hat mit schwierigen Entscheidungen zu kämpfen. Was so ein geiles Dach in.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Endlich öffnet sich ja die Tür. Runter oder hoch? Komm, bleib oben. Person of the Year. Ist das Stanley?
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
Left alone.
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here?
Was geht ab? Wo bin
Oh
ich jetzt?
no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
Werden wir jetzt zerrobbt oder was? Werden wir jetzt zerstückelt?
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Komm, gehen wir hier lang. Es ist halt Meter auf Meter auf Meter-Ebene.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
Geht's hier irgendwo weiter? Ja, hier.
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Was ist der Knopf hier?
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot.
Oh.
Oh, you're back, you see? You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary Well, there's sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips. Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes. Stanley!
Yo.
Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with.
Pech gehabt. Hallo?
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time.
Ach ja?
I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to...
Halt's Maul. Jetzt ist er weg. Ganz am Anfang vom Spiel hat man doch gesehen, dieses 8-mal neu starten und am Ende steht, dass Stanley stirbt. Und irgendwann stand da auch Eine Zeile davor stand auch, der Erzähler sagt nichts mehr. Komm, nochmal. Boah, das tut so in den Ohren weh. Jetzt kann ich endlich auch mal was sagen. Ah, ich kann noch mal überspringen, komm.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But of course...
Die haben recht, du redest zu viel. Okay. Jetzt ist es ruhig. Gib mir mal den Knopf zurück. Passiert irgendwas? Muss ich wieder drücken?
The end is never the end, 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 is never.
Da rastet schon aus. Was ist das für ein Geräusch? Tropft da was, oder was? Ja, komm, drück den Knopf. Alles zerstört hier. Ich kann auch... Kann ich da drüber? Nee. Ich kann da gar nichts machen. Ich kann nur den Knopf drücken. Das Licht. Führ mich zum Licht. Komme ich auf die Rückseite zum ersten Mal. Komme ich hier nicht raus? Wie viele Jahrzehnte, Jahrhunderte sind vergangen? Es ist ein neues Leben entstanden. The Last of Us. Na gut, drück mir noch mal. Sind wir wieder im Nichts. Was ist das für ein Sound? Wie oft muss ich da jetzt noch drücken, Mann? Langsam können wir zum Ende kommen. Jetzt ist es ruhig. Horrorgeräusche. So richtige Horrorgeräusche. Oh. Was geht ab? Soll ich hier springen? Wo bin ich jetzt gelandet? Bin ich am Strand? Bin ich in der Wüste? Lauf, Stanley! Lauf! Hätte ich den Knopf trotzdem noch mal drücken können. Okay, wo bin ich jetzt? Was passiert jetzt? Wieder im Büro. 427. Die Bleistifte sind gespitzt.
How wonderful. Stanley was alone. Finally. This is great, he thought to himself. This is what I've wanted all along. I got what I wanted.
Nochmal. New Content. Neuer Content. Juhu.
Oh, good. You notice my sign.
Ja.
Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
Ja, zeig's mir. Zeig's mir, Baby. Herr Erzähler. Zeigen Sie es mir bitte. Show me.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
Juhu! Fortsetzung.
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
Top. Neues Büro, alles schön eingerichtet. Super.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
Sehr
Now, to be
futuristisch.
clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
Neue Features. 2. Terminator 2 war auch eine tolle Fortsetzung. Der Pate 2. Tolle Fortsetzung. Auch wenn es Filme sind, aber... Eben stand da schon auf der Wand. Half-Life 2. Oh, eine schöne Ausstellung hier.
Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
Zeig mir die Features. Bürodekoration. Stanley Parable. Beruhigungseimer. Der Knopf, der den Namen des Spielers nennt, der das Spiel spielt. Hear your name. In the game.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
Jim.
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim. Sleep.
Jim.
Whoa, hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the backstory. If you don't properly roleplay as Jim, then you'll never understand the impact of this button. Otherwise, it's just a stupid button that says somebody else's name. Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first.
Nein.
Now, allow yourself to become Jim. All right, fine, whatever. It's just a meaningless button that says Jim. Are you happy now? Get out of here. I'm done with this button. Why don't you go humiliate me in front of a different feature that I worked very hard on?
Jim.
See, if you'd only played along, that would have been your name the button says. But no. Instead, I can't even think about it. I'm taking the Jim button away.
Hey!
Jim.
Ich konnte wenigstens noch mal drücken. Geht's irgendwie weiter? Ah, die Tür ist wieder offen. Was gibt's noch für Features?
Maybe I'll only let people named Jim play the Stanley Parable too. They would appreciate what I've created here.
Hey Stanley, was geht ab? Voll geil in dem Bild. In dieser Silhouette. Da ist einfach Ding. Stanley, wie der an seinem PC hockt. Einstellungen Weltmeister. Ich komme da nicht rein. Bitte keine Screenshots.
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
Ich bin hier festgesteckt, Mann. Ah, hier. Hier, Stanley. Nimm das Blaue.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is.
Hat einfach das andere genommen.
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on.
Komm, wir gehen hier hoch.
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on.
Ich kotze da gleich rein.
Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
Krass, okay. Ich freue mich schon auf den zweiten Teil. Aber wann ist endlich dieser Teil vorbei? Ah, ist wieder offen, die Tür. Komm, weiter geht's. Ich habe jetzt meinen Eimer.
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
Das ist hier der Knopf mit dem Gym. Der Gym-Knopf. Hier ist der Eimer. War ich hier schon?
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes, you see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you. It's a Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen. What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
Frage ich mich auch gerade. Ja, hier kann ich wieder springen.
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. Oh wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle?
Oh.
Oh well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
Was soll ich auch machen? Hab ich alles? Soll ich Merch kaufen? Ah, das Ding, das schwarze Loch, komm. Springen wir da rein. Hier bis zur Unendlichkeit. Wo ist dieses Loch? Ah, hier. Oder?
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium.
Komm. Lass es tun!
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward.
Lass mal eine Runde fallen.
Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things.
Lass weiter fallen.
Okay, Stanley, I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a...
Ah!
Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite?
Okay.
If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
Wer hat dir die ganzen Kippen geraucht? Ja, komm.
Great. Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
Komm, dann zeig mir mal die Fortsetzung hier. Soll ich wieder rausgehen oder was? Ey. Komme ich hier raus? Ah, hier die Treppe raus. Jetzt läuft wieder Musik oder was? Der arme Stanley hier. Gehen wir mal hier hoch. War ich hier schon? Hier ist noch diese Einstellungstür da. Einstellungen Weltmeister. Ich kann da nichts öffnen. War ich hier drin? Epilog.
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley?
Yeah.
Yes, it will go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
Irgendwann kommt dieser Epilog. Okay, dieser Knopf mit Jim, den haben wir schon gehabt. Was haben wir noch nicht gesehen? Hier komme ich nicht weiter. Merch. Von dort habe ich den Eimer. Ich habe die ganze Zeit diesen Eimer in der Hand, sehe ich gerade. Ich hab total vergessen, dass ich hier diesen Eimer habe. Hey, ich habe irgendwie so Handygeräusche. Red is the new orange. Orange is the new black. Okay, ja. Können wir das langsam hier beenden?
Collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
Ich brauche die Sammlerstücke. Ab in den Eimer mit dir. So, fertig. Jetzt habe ich das Ding auch.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Du bist hier. Ja, was machen wir denn jetzt noch? Hier war ich schon, oder? Epilog, ja. Das mit dem Knopf habe ich schon gemacht. Knopf habe ich schon gedrückt, den Gym-Knopf. Das war doch jetzt aber nur ein Spruch jetzt mit den Collectives, mit den Sammlerstücken. Oder muss ich jetzt hier noch 5 Dinger sammeln? Ja, drauf.
Come now, you've already made your choice. It's true that you chose badly, but we all have to move on from our mistakes.
Ich habe das hier gedrückt und nicht jetzt da. Na gut. Hier war ich auch schon. Habe ich doch was verpasst? Da war ich doch auch schon. Hey. Ja, okay, ich bin jetzt hier gewesen. Was verpasse ich jetzt gerade noch? Hier, Ausgang. Bring mich zum Ausgang.
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted to?
Ja.
Ready to move on now?
Mhm. Lass abhauen. Ich hab genug gesehen. Hier wie so ein Blockbuster irgendwie. Wie so ein Thriller. Stanley. Die Stanley Parabel.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready?
Ja.
Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
You. Wow.
Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2.
Wow.
Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Yeah, Stanley Parable 2. Fangen wir das Spiel an. Ich freue mich jetzt schon. Woo!
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor at his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget.
Huh?
He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Spielen wir jetzt einfach komplett nochmal neu oder kommen wir jetzt hier langsam auch zum Ende?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Sag bloß, wir spielen wieder ganz normal hier Stanley Parable.
Stanley felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up. Why was he not doing it? When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Auf jeden Fall ist hier dieses Get Well Someday, ne? War das vorhin auch schon da? Und die Tür mit dem New Content ist auch weg gewesen, ne?
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ne, wir gehen runter.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating?
Ja.
No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, It's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Und schon ist er wieder wach. I am okay. Mir geht's gut.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Hä? Und jetzt?
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Tja, da ist er einfach weitergegangen. Mariella. Okay, jetzt sind wir wieder im Büro. Langsam muss es aufhören hier. Ich habe genug von dieser Metaebene. Okay, überall sind jetzt
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it.
Was?
If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
Überall noch diese Luftballons hier. Wer verfolgt mich hier? Hallo? Irgendein Stalker hier oder was? Eben war doch Fadenkreuz. Für was? Hey, da ist dieser Eimer.
Stanley picked up the bucket.
War der Eimer vorhin auch schon da? War der Eimer die ganze Zeit schon da? Hä? Der hat einen Input bekommen. War das hier schon immer auf dem Boden? Der hat hier einen Input bekommen. Input Receive. Da ist sogar ein Luftballon auf dem Sitz. Hallo?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Von mir aus.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
Schauen wir mal.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Gib mir Antworten, Chef.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Ich erinnere mich an den Code. Ich erinnere mich immer noch an den Code 2845. Wow. Ich sehe kaum noch was. Gehen wir wieder runter oder was? Was soll ich jetzt mit diesem blöden Eimer?
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Alles wird gut, du hast den Eimer, Stanley.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Das ist mein Eimer. Mein Eimer wird immer an meiner Seite bleiben. Und wenn ich kotzen muss, ist mein Eimer für mich da.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Okay. Alles wird gut, Eimerlein.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Mein Eimer ist mein bester Freund.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Soll ich es machen? Ja, komm. Vielleicht ist es ja jetzt vorbei.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support.
Hey!
What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Mein Eimer ist mein bester Freund. Ich lasse dich alleine.
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
Eimer!
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Aimi! Aimi ist mein bester Freund. Okay. Komm weiter.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Aimi und Stanley sind für immer
Still no one
zusammen.
was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he... Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Soll ich wieder hochlaufen? Passiert doch immer das Gleiche.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by... But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck.
Es wiederholt
Was it
sich.
the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Okay, es wiederholt sich alles gerade. Es passiert nichts Neues.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Wir gehen hier lang.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death. The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At
Aimi
this
nicht.
point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Aimi und ich bleiben zusammen. Und jetzt werden wir wieder zerstört, oder was?
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Aimi, beschütz mich!
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
Aimi!
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
Der Eimer hat sogar ein Ding. Ein Text hier. Der Eimer heißt Sie willkommen zur großen Ausstellung. Sie stehen am Abgrund des Wissens. Ähnlich wie ein Eimer ist auch der menschliche Verstand oft leer, eine höhlenartige Leere. Aber durch die Absorption des Ausstellungsstücks vor Ihnen wird der Geist voll, bereichert und fundiert. Die Kenntnisse über den Eimer und seine Geschichte sind das einzig wahre Wissen, das wir wirklich haben. Werden Sie das, was Sie hier lernen, mit in die Welt hinausnehmen? Werden Sie aufgeschlossen akzeptieren, was an den Informationen in dieser Ausstellung herausfordernd sein mag? Werden Sie das Leben von sich selbst und Ihren Liebsten als Folge dieser Ausstellung verändern? Oder werden Sie die Augen verschließen und weiterleben wie bisher in Unwissenheit und Dunkelheit? Haben wir wieder so eine Ausstellung hier. Ich habe mir keinen Bock mehr, diese
Can you
Ausstellung
see
anzusehen.
how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
Die Fortsetzung ist jetzt pausiert. Ich glaube, das Spiel hört nie auf. Okay, wir sind jetzt in der Ausstellung, diesmal halt über den Eimer. Irgendwie habe ich das Gefühl, es hört nie auf. Eine Fotografie von 25 Eimern, die größte Anzahl an Eimern, die jemals von einer Kamera erfasst wurde. Der Fotograf erlitt mehrere Wochen lang einen katatonischen Schock aufgrund der Euphorie, die er beim Anblick so vieler Eimer auf einmal empfand. Sind das wirklich 25 Eimer oder habe ich mich verlesen? 25. Das sind keine 25 Eimer. Guck mal hier. Dass er ohne Schutz hier einfach steht, dieser Eimer. Der Inferno-Eimer. Der müsste doch beschützt werden, so wie die Mona Lisa. Eine Nachbildung, achso, eine Nachbildung. Eine Nachbildung des Inferno-Eimers, der im Mittelalter eine so große Anziehungskraft ausübte, dass Dutzende von Nationen gegeneinander Krieg führten, um die Kontrolle über ihn zu erlangen. Milliarden von Menschen starben und trotz allem bleibt die einfache Tatsache bestehen: Niemand kann einen Eimer kontrollieren. Hier, schön zum Reinkotzen. Der Stresseimer, ohne Kommentar. Ich glaube, wenn wir fertig sind mit dieser Ausstellung, schon damals Höhlenzeichnungen über den Eimer. Höhlemalerei. Wir wissen zwar, dass es Eimer schon vor der Existenz der Menschheit gab, aber wir wissen nicht, wie lange zuvor. Diese Höhlenzeichnung zeigt, wie der frühe Mensch den praktischen Nutzen des Eimers entdeckte. Zu diesem Zeitpunkt gab es den Eimer wahrscheinlich schon seit mehreren Jahrtausenden. Auf diesen Zeichnungen ist zu sehen, wie der Eimer die Benutzung seiner selbst zulässt, nachdem er die Menschheit für würdig befunden hat, seine Schätze zu nutzen. Oh, sogar mit einem Stock.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
Der hängende Eimer. Dieses Stück symbolisiert die notwendige Beziehung zwischen Eimer und Menschheit. Wie klar unser Verständnis des Eimers auch sein mag, es gibt noch mehr, das stets außerhalb unserer Reichweite liegt. Dieser Abstand ist unweigerlich zu unserem eigenen Besten. Der hängende Eimer. Ich glaube, das ist der Beweis, beziehungsweise der Grund, warum wir leben. Ah, komm! Bis zur Unendlichkeit. Lass in die bis ins schwarze Loch
But
rein.
there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket.
Okay.
We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Okay, der Eimer hat übernommen, kein Problem. Der hat viel mehr Persönlichkeit als Stanley. Hochlebe der Eimer! Und schon sind wir wieder am Anfang. Ich glaube, das wiederholt sich immer und immer wieder. Also, ich lasse es jetzt einfach mal so stehen. Das ist die Stanley Parabel The Stanley Parable. Ultra Deluxe, Ultra Deluxe. Lassen wir mal so stehen. Ich werde das Video hier beenden. Danach werde ich mich ein bisschen schlau machen bezüglich des Spiels. Ob es tatsächlich noch sein Ende kommen kann. Oder ob es einfach immer weiter und immer weiter geht, immer das sich wiederholt, dann noch mit einem Eimer. Vielleicht hat dann irgendwie der Eimer noch eine Schleife oder irgendwie sowas. Und dann wiederholt sich es immer und immer wieder und immer wieder. Es hört nicht auf, immer wieder kleine Feinheiten. Wir sehen ja jetzt da vorne diese Luftballons, die dann da dran kleben. Und es geht weiter, es hört nicht auf, immer wieder dasselbe. Ich hab's verstanden. Ist alles auf Metaebene. Ich hab den Witz verstanden. Wir durchbrechen die 4. Wand. Breaking the 4th wall. Ah, mein Englisch ist nicht so gut. Ich hab's verstanden. Auf Meta-Ebene, geiles Spiel. Macht Spaß. Hat Spaß gemacht. Aber irgendwann ist auch Schluss. Lassen wir es mal so stehen. Vielen Dank fürs Zusehen. Falls dir das Video gefallen hat, gib mir einen Daumen nach oben, abonniere den Kanal und beim nächsten Video geht's weiter. Beim nächsten Let's Play geht's weiter. Macht's gut. Ciao.